They never lost. Chapter 5. Turning Point Earth, 1132. Hours, Earth time, EST. A large and spacious room with an oval table. Around it, in leather chairs, sat men with grim expressions on their faces. These are the leaders of human civilization. And at the helm of the table sat a man who stared at the table while massaging his temples. He was well-dressed and well-groomed. Yet, his eyes told another story. This man was tired. The bags under his eyes indicated that he had many sleepless nights. "Secretary General!" someone from the other side of the table uttered. "Our partial mobilization efforts have bore fruit. We have several new regiments on the front. We ramped up weapons production and secured a front line on the fringes of Sector 7 and Sector 6. The Secretary General slowly nodded and then raised his head, placing his hands on the table. "What about Sector 5? He asked. We're working on it. As of now, Sector 5 as a whole is a contested area." The Secretary General nodded once more. "All right. Minister Dawson, how is the public reacting to this series of events?" A man at the side of the table stood up. "We are trying to keep morale high. We are currently holding casualty reports out of the public eye, but it is a matter of time before they will demand us to release the reports," Minister Dawson said. The Secretary General looked around the table before gesturing the minister to sit back down. "We can't lie to the people. What they will demand is action." "Minister Ibrahimovic, what are the casualty reports?" "According to our best estimates, 20,000, though those figures might be higher." "Minister Ibrahimovic, those figures are higher. We were caught by surprise. Despite having information on a possible declaration of war, I expected at least some kind of incident. A casus belli, not an abrupt invasion without a single reason given." The Secretary General looked around the table once more before continuing. "We are not dealing with a border skirmish, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a state of war, and the very existence of the Terran Federation and all of its constituent territories is at risk. We have the support of the intergalactic community, yes, but it is up to us to hold and resist until the Galactic House votes on how to react. And that might take a month, maybe more." Silence befell the room as the reality of the situation slowly started to be apparent to everyone present. "Sir, what is it you want us to do?" one voice asked somewhere from the table. A slight tremble with a hint of uncertainty. "Total mobilization of all of our military assets from every corner of the Terran Federation. Secure all the trade lanes and supply routes. Put all intelligence operatives within and outside our territory on high alert, and utilize every resource available to gauge the military organization and capability of the Frindians," the Secretary General said. Murmurs and whispers erupted in the room. This was unprecedented. Meanwhile, the Secretary General slid his hand through his graying hair and cleared his throat. "I am announcing an emergency broadcast. Connect me to all available stations." Within moments, all voices and mutters fell silent. A large holographic screen appeared before the Secretary General. He was silent for a few seconds as he stared at a mirror image of himself. This was not the way he wanted to present himself to the public, but he had no other choice. "This is Christopher Allen, Secretary General of the Terran Federation, broadcasting from Earth. As you are well aware, there had been a string of incidents on the border with the Frindian Empire. Those incidents were not mistakes. They were not accidents. They were a deliberate act of aggression against the Terran Federation from the Frindian Empire. These acts are unlawful. They are illegal. All attempts at diplomacy have failed. And from this moment on, officially, we are in a state of war with the Frindian Empire." There was a slight pause. The Secretary General closed his eyes for a moment before opening them up again. "From this moment on, we are instituting total mobilization of all military assets. We are going to do everything in our power to defend our freedom against tyranny. Defeat is not an option. Do not fret, do not worry, for mankind has gone through worse. We have prevailed, and we shall prevail once more. We will remind our foes once more how humans wage war. Frindian homeworld 108 hours after Achilles Station. The underground sewers of the Frindian capital. Abandoned centuries ago, these veritable catacombs became home to outcasts and vagabonds. In these tunnels, since the ascension of the new emperor, a new type of inhabitant called this place home: the freedom fighter, the revolutionary. General Crifter sat back in an old and decrepit chair as he listened to the briefing of what these young Frindians knew. He would once call them terrorists, criminals. Those who went against the crown went against everything Frindia stood for, but now instead of rounding them up and sending them to the deepest pits, they were his only ticket to freedom. They were the only ticket that provided any semblance of hope against the emperor's tyranny. From what we've been able to gather, the Emperor Mab Pletin's actions are not his own. He is merely a puppet in someone else's game. There are rumors that advisor Dibinadwi is somehow connected. The Red Scales Frindian, dressed in an old military uniform, wasn't able to finish his sentence before General Crifter interrupted. It is not Dibinadwi. I am sure of that. That man is too incompetent to do his own work, let alone to do any shady dealings behind anyone's back, let alone imperial intelligence, Crifter remarked. That's true, but the best he can do in that case is shut up if there is something happening. If he knows something, a simple threat or bribe is enough to shut him up. Crifter thought for a few moments, scratching the scales on the back of his head. You might be right. If we can't be sure or even trust the very men who were tasked with such a responsibility as to protect this country and advise the emperor, then who can we trust, other than the few members of military who aren't scared of the consequences? What say you, Reeded? The Red Scales Frindian, Ridded, answered without hesitation. There is only one thing we can do, then. The only other group with which we share a common enemy, which we can only hope won't stab us in the back, is, well, humans. As soon as Ridded said that, a voice from the group shouted, Humans? Do you really think that they will cooperate with any Frindian after all of this? They will see us with great suspicion, and in the worst case, kill us. No species with a modicum of intelligence is dumb enough to trust, let alone cooperate with an enemy race, even if they share common goals. Another voice joined in soon thereafter. Yeah, and how can we even start cooperating? How can we even get into contact with the humans? That plan is a joke. After the crowd vented out their frustrations and calmed down, Crifter stood up from his chair and cleared his throat. Gentlemen, I am afraid that Reeded is right. He paused, awaiting backlash, but none came. I sympathize with your worries. The humans can't trust any of us. We are at war with the Terran Federation, but you fail to understand one thing about the humans. He turned and looked at everyone present. The humans have a much more flexible way of working with others. As long as you are of use, no matter your race or species, and can, of course, be trusted, you will have a great ally. I do not mean to brag when I tell you this, but without me, you probably wouldn't stand a chance of getting the humans on your side. Like all of you said, no intelligent being is insane enough to cooperate with an enemy, but right here they have the greatest inside network they could have ever hoped for. And as for me, I worked with the humans. I have fought with them. I am well known among them, and I have a good enough reputation, so the chances that they will accept us is much higher. There was murmuring in the crowd, whispers. The group was split on what to do. Someone from the group then spoke up. That is all well and good, General. But where in the nine hells are we going to find a human here? Or even get into contact with a human? All incoming and outgoing transmissions are monitored. Crifter smiled and let out a small chuckle before replying, Well, young one, that is very simple. We will not come to them, they will come to us. And it is worth mentioning that there are humans here. They are near, especially now. It is only a matter of time. Earth Veterans Memorial, Hamburg, 1524 hours CET. And to the brave men who stood their ground till the bitter end, Sergeant Trevor Macaulay, Officer Soda Hayashi, and the last man standing, Private Lawrence Schmidt. These are the names that will forever be remembered for their bravery. These were the words spoken by the chief of the military a few days after Achilles' Station. Within the crowd that listened on that sunny Hamburg day was a man dressed formally, yet comfortably, slowly smoking a cigarette as he listened to the speech. It's weird, isn't it? Someone beside the man said. To see history unfold right before your very eyes. The man took one last drag of the cigarette and extinguished it on the floor, before retrieving a small box and putting the cigarette butt inside. Indeed it is. Not the first time for me, though. You kind of get used to it after a while, the man dressed in black said. You military? Special forces? The man beside him asked. The man dressed in black looked at him. Something like that, he said before turning around and leaving, weaving through the crowd and going back on the main street. He walked down the street. It was well decorated with trees lining each side. A nice stroll in the shade sat well after a depressing speech. He sat on a bench, looking out to the park across the street where children played, while their parents chatted. He smiled. He got a pack of cigarettes out and put one in his mouth, but before he could light it up, he heard a ring in his ear. Ah, Jesus! What now? He said with exasperation. He pressed something behind his ear and a holographic screen appeared before him. It was not visible to anyone but himself. Yeah, Chief, I'm on vacation, you know that? Agent Walter Meyer, your vacation is over. You heard the orders of the Secretary General. The hidden face and deep voice from the other side said, All agents on high alert. Yes, that is clear. Walter replied, Any updates on my mission? No, your mission is canceled. You have been given a very special mission, Agent Meyer. We believe you are the only one available who is up to the task. And what kind of task would that be? Walter asked. You are going to be smuggled through one of the few lanes that are still open. By that I mean we have utilized a few connections on the other side of the law. Your mission is to conduct espionage and find out what you can about the royal family as well as attempt sabotage if possible. Walter sighed. All right, not something I'm unfamiliar with. I assume I am going to the Phrygian frontier. Wait, royal family? Where am I going exactly? Bide Kartref, the Phrygian homeworld. Your ride is waiting for you outside of Hamburg. Be there at 16:30 sharp. I'll send you the coordinates. Good luck, soldier. Looks like there's no vacation for me,